Hi guys, welcome to episode 24 of Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today's theme is going to be wacky minimal. I know that there are many different types of minimal music. It could be minimal house, minimal techno, or just straight up minimal. I'm not going to get too involved in the semantics of it, except to say that the next six records that I'm going to review, I think have aspects of minimal music in them, and I'm going to present them to you here. First up, we have an artist name that I cannot pronounce, but I'm going to try, M.A.M.P. The EP is called Winters Are Getting Shorter, and the track on here that you want is called Backcountry. Backcountry to me sounds like you're inside the hull of an abandoned ghost ship that maybe is creaking and wants to sink. This track goes off. It has a rhythm that I used to make fun of back in like 2006, 2007, maybe 2008 when minimal really like peaked in the club scene. People were making rhythms that I called like dookadooks, and I know that's like kind of ridiculous sounding, but the rhythms just sound like dookadook. And this was an example of a dookadook track that actually sounds really awesome. The build-up for this is pretty epic, and I really think this goes off nicely. And considering that this was made in 2007, I think it's aged well, and I would still play this in a modern set. Next up is an EP on Spectral, and this is by an artist that I'm a pretty big fan of, and this is Peter Grummich. This is his Sea Room EP. This is a weird record, man. It's got a track on it. Sea Room on the A side is relatively normal lounge techno, minimal techno, whatever you want to call it. I would say that's the most accessible track. The B1 is called Jack Monster or something along those lines, and it's just like a huge sender. If you remember that label Sender, it's a Sender kick drum and some like really noisy crunching sounds. I've tried playing it for people. Most of them got kind of like irritated with it. I think it's kind of cool and just a ballsy record to release in the first place. But the track that I like on here the most is called No Reason. And when I first listened to No Reason, I thought that it was weird, but I couldn't put my finger on it. It has a, really nice labels on this, by the way. It has a 5/4 time signature. So that means you get 5 beats per whatever the unit is, repeated times 4, and then the cycle starts over again. It took me a while to figure that out, especially because the track alternates between a 5/4 and a 4/4 time signature. So when I was first I thought I was just mishearing it, or I didn't understand what was happening, or there was maybe some syncopation going on, but he's just playing with the time signatures in there. I think that's a really cool track, and I don't know too many 5/4 records that are out there. I'm sure there's a bunch, but hey, maybe you guys can recommend me some. I'd be interested to listen to that. Next up is a 2006 record that you may be familiar with already, because this is famous for the Carl Craig remix on the C1. It's called Relevi, and it's by Delia Gonzalez and Gavin Rossum. The track that I ended up liking the most, I mean, I'm not going to disregard the Carl Craig. The Carl Craig is really nice, but I like the Baby Ford on here. The Baby Ford is like maybe 112, 113 beats per minute. And when I say this is minimal, this is true minimal. I try to count the elements in here, and I think the total number of elements in the track is 6. And even with 6, it really sounds like 4 because 2 of them are maybe just flinting like in and out of a, kind of like popping in and out of existence. And even the kick drum isn't there the whole time. The kick drum kind of like slowly creeps into the background, but never really fully appears, and then it kind of fades out. And this goes on for 11 or 12 minutes. Really cool slow rolling track. I always thought if I ever opened a club and it was like a real late set, I would like to start my set with this, even though it's really slow. Like maybe just like stop the music and bring in just this, and maybe even filter out the highs and just let the bass line rumble, because the bass line on this is huge. It's just like a steady rumbling tone that I just think is awesome. If you listen on a phone, you're not going to get it from the sample that I'm going to put in here. But if you hear this out somewhere, or just play it like loud on your home setup, you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. Give this a go, guys. This has been in my box for years. I've played it in a few different sets, and I love it. Next up is an artist that I haven't spent too much time on, but I regard these guys very highly. This is Minilogue, and it's their EP called Inca. Minilogue has been around, I think, since 2003. Before that, they've had aliases going back to maybe 1999 or 1998. So they've been making electronic music for a while. It wasn't until, I'm just gonna venture an off-the-cuff guess here, maybe 2014 or 15 that they split up. So you've got Sebastian and Marcus doing their own thing at this point. Thankfully, they're both talented, so you can check out any Sebastian remixes or any Marcus remixes, and there's still some gems in there. Although I do wish they would get back together. I think they were better as a duo than separated, but I'm still thankful that they're releasing music. This is their track called Inca. Doombot and I used to play the crap out of this. It has a 2 or 3 minute breakdown in the middle, and that's why I chose it for this episode. The breakdown basically sounds like, it has the typical Minilogue aesthetic to it, to the breakdown specifically, but it sounds like maybe you're out in a desert and somebody's tripping on peyote and there's a peace pipe and a didgeridoo involved. It's just really wacky techno space desert music. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really cool when the beat finally drops in. It just like settles in over the noise and just kind of like quiets it down. And I just always thought that was so awesome. I think you could win some crowds over with this one. Next up, this is a pure Doombot find. This isn't me. But hanging out with Doombot, I got to listen to this a lot. This is Speicher, if I'm pronouncing that right, 37 on compact. It's Tom Pooks, The track that we like, Doombot and I like, is called Docker. Doombot got to play Docker at a warehouse party. I know I talk about warehouse parties a lot, but that's all I went to back in Philly in the mid-2000s, so you guys are just gonna have to listen to me talk about warehouses all the time. But Doombot had the gig, I was just hanging out, I was in the crowd, and he had the opening slot. And when he got towards the end of his set, he dropped Docker. And Docker, if you look at the waveform of this track, especially during the build-up, it's just a wall. Like it's literally like the wave is a brick going across your screen, because it's just treble just carrying out. So imagine that being played in a space with like a high ceiling that lets the reverbs and the echoes bounce around. I mean, it just completely crushes. And then to have the the stompy kind of bass line come in, really just took over the whole night, and it was really one of the highlights of the night for me. Props to dropping this, Doombot. That was an epic moment in our lives for sure. Last but not least, the other tracks that I've been talking about are all from the 06 to 08 range. Actually, the Peter Grummich is from 2004, but now I'm gonna venture out of that and go into the last record, which is from 2013. This is Joey Anderson on Avenue 66, a pretty obscure label. They make, I guess abstract house and techno would be the best way to describe it. This is the most abstract release on that label, and possibly the most abstract on Joey Anderson's entire catalog. The track is called Above the Cherry Moon, and you could tell Joey's just basically like turning knobs and creating like analog, I don't even know what to call them, just glimpses of sounds. And they're somewhat organized, and I think they do repeat if you really break it down, but they're also somewhat chaotic too, as if maybe he recorded them spontaneously and doesn't have them all like quantized perfectly. The thing that makes it kind of resemble a track ultimately is that it has a kick drum. But if it didn't have the kick, I think you would get probably lost in this, and I think that's what makes it so cool.
Above the cherry moon.
If you try to play this for a normal crowd, man, good luck. But if you really want to wow people or catch them off guard, or if you want to play to a really educated crowd and push their limits as to what they're willing to accept as music, give this a try. I think you'll maybe impress some people, at least have some people asking you what the heck just happened. So that's it for my Wacky Minimal episode. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Take care. Peace.